Network, Martin Esiedu Date. Martin, thank you so much.
My pleasure to be here.
We will be joined later by Akwesi Insia, who is also a broadcast journalist with the multimedia group Adom TV, to be precise. But Martin, let's look at the happenings in Parliament now with the censure against the Finance Minister. What do you make of it?
I think, good morning to you and to your viewers. Thanks for the opportunity to be here. To start with, I think Ghana's democracy is growing, and in the last few years we have shown that we can, if we put our minds to it collectively. Parliament in the last few months has, in fact, right after the 2020 elections, we've had a very slim margin in Parliament, and that has thrown up a lot of challenges and how we need to handle it as a people. We've not walked this path before, so a lot of the challenges that are coming up needs going back to our laws and look at what was specifically stated in the laws and how that can help us navigate these very uncharted paths. For the issues about the censure of Finance Minister OFORI Attah, the shock for many was the fact that it came from the party in government. That was the first time that in our democracy or in our history, we have a party in government asking for one of their own to be booted out. It's never happened before, and that's what makes it even more interesting. The challenge for the majority or the NPP in Parliament, however, is that in as much as they agree with the fact that OFORI Attah must go, and majority of them agree to it because beyond the 80 MPs, the 80 NPP MPs who addressed the media first and told them about they think the finance minister is not fit for position and that should be taken out. The majority leader himself, Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, said that after they met the president, they collectively agreed that the finance minister must go. However, there was a caveat. The president reasoned with them and said, let's take that decision as to whether or not he will go or resign after he's presented the budget and after the IMF negotiations. This also brings up a new challenge. There is a collective agreement, he must go, but there are timelines the president has submitted to them, which they agreed to and returned to Parliament. Before the motion was moved for Parliament to vote or otherwise, the majority held a press conference and said that they still stand by their position that the finance minister must go, but they don't want to use the NDC's strategy. They believe that the NDC is putting across a number of allegations and accusations which they disagree with. And so we side with you that he must go, but we cannot go on these terms. And so that is why in the wisdom of the Speaker, Speaker Bagbin, he said, let's form a committee and allow OFORI Attah, the man on the fire, to come and give his side of the story. There is always two sides to a story, every story. And in this story involving OFORI Attah, we have not heard his side of the story, especially on the back of the accusations being made by the NDC in Parliament, which include the fact that he has misappropriated funds, he has given out or approved monies to be used for the building of the National Cathedral, the cathedral, which are state funds. And if you have to give any such approval, Parliament must give their consent. And the minority, the NDC, is saying that anytime they've tried to get the finance minister to come to Parliament to answer to some of these questions, he has been either unavailable or totally ignores them. So on the back of those allegations, he needs to be sacked. And people now started asking questions. Why does finance minister need to be given the chance to be given a fair hearing? We are in a political space. Our economy is in a very, very tight corner, and they are saying that as a leader of the economy or a key player in the economic management team of government, he has to answer. He manages the country's purse. He manages our finances. So on that score, he has to come to the House and answer some questions. And then based on that, they can take their final decision. So for me, when you look at political and democratic aspirations of a young democracy like ours, we are treading cautiously. We are doing the right things. And I'm happy that it's not being rushed. It is still being through the democratic process of, in the local language, they say, Kembi Mamin Kembi. The minority say this, the majority say this. There is a speaker that takes a final decision. It looks as though the speaker is being smart about this. And within the media space, you'd hear people say he's being extra careful because he doesn't want just any and every decision to be hung around his neck. So he wants it to be the collective decision of Parliament. That is why he's formed 8-member committee from both sides of the House. They will meet Ken, and then when Ken gives his side of the story, then the final decision of a vote will be taken by the House. I am happy that democracy is growing, the Ghanaian democracy is growing. We are pushing the frontiers of democracy. Many nations have not had this opportunity to even discuss these kinds of things in Parliament. People become riotous and violent whenever they have disagreements or, different, varying opinions about an issue. But I am happy that we are pushing our democracy and trying to make sure that we get the best decision for the nation. We can look at why the NPP want Ken OFORI Attah sacked. That may be another leg of the conversation. But as it stands now, they agree that he must go. The president says, give us time. As to whether he will be able to complete the IMF negotiation for that to be captured in the budget, which we are told now will be read on, is it 23rd or 24th of November, we all have to, keep our wait in bated breath and hope the decision will be taken. As to whether the president will sack him or he would be forced to resign is another bone of contention.
All right, that will be another bone of contention. It is the Reporters Roundtable, and we are here looking at the vote of censure against the Ghana's finance minister, and we'll also be talking about the law school wanting students to send in their social media handles to be monitored, all in the bid to ensure that once you are called to the bar, you are of good character. We are here. You can send in your texts or your WhatsApp on 0244 745152, 0244 745152. We are back.
Sun, day and night, and sometimes under very dangerous circumstances. They go to great lengths to bring you the stories that matter to you. It's time to celebrate our distinguished journalists at the 26th GJA Awards. Saturday, 12th November 2022 at the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, Accra. Theme: Walking the Path Toward Ghana's Economic Recovery, the Role of the Media. Special guest of honor, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. The 26th GJA Awards is brought to you by the Ghana Journalists Association. Headline sponsor, Koa Research and Manufacturing Company. Producers of Koa Mixture. Major sponsors, VRA, Ghana Gas, ADB, Tobinco Group, Wisconsin International University College, Ghana Link, InnoLink, Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, U.S. Embassy, National Insurance Commission. Other supporting sponsors, Ash Foam, Ghana Shippers Authority, Food and Drugs Authority, Ghana Police Service, Ghana Ports and Harbors Authority, Furniture City, and the Ministry of Information. Media partners, Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC Online. The 26th GJA Awards, celebrating excellence in journalism.
Welcome back to the program, and this is the Reporters Roundtable. If you just joined in, we're looking at the vote of censure against Ken OFORI Attah, Ghana's finance minister, and we'll also be taking a look at why the law school is calling on his students to hand over their social media accounts or handles to be monitored, so they can be called to the bar and ensure that they are in good character. We have been joined by Akwesi Nsia, who is with Adom TV and from the multimedia group.
Yes.
Did you listen to Martin on his submission? He believes that we are pushing the democratic frontiers when it comes to the happenings in Parliament now on the censure. What's your take?
I think, let me say very good morning to our choice viewers and those who are also listening to us wherever they are. And thank you for calling me to this great important program like this. And it's good to meet a colleague, Martin, also here. Rebecca, thank you to us again. You see, one would say this is the first time that we are moving to this edge. Yes, we have a record of 1999, what happened when Kofi Kunadu Aproko made a same move, but it didn't get to this edge. Yes, one would say that, yes, the country is making progress when it comes to our democracy. To be honest, there's been one question since this thing started. And I also believe that our majority MPs, to me, are not letting us know the whole picture. In the sense that, one breath, you are telling us, Honorable OFORI Attah, until COVID-19, until Russia invasion in Ukraine, the man from 2017 to 2020 has been performing well. Now you tell us again that with the invasion of COVID and Russia in Ukraine, the man cannot be faulted for what we are going through, but you believe he's tired, that should leave the scene. Two, you're also telling us again that you've listened to your constituents, and their constituents are telling you, the ones that you represent in Parliament, are telling you that our finance minister should leave the scene. We need to set a precedent that every president who comes to power will also follow suit. So now let's set it to work to know that if indeed, one, is it that Honorable OFORI Attah is not performing as expected? Two, is it that the market have lost confidence in him? What are we using to measure that confidence? Is it by his performance? If it's by performance, let the president know that, Mr. President, your finance minister is not performing. But what I also see is that they also don't want to shut themselves, because from day one, that other market leaders, other economists have drawn attention to the performance of Mr. OFORI Attah. They also don't want to fall prey to it, because already have defended Mr. OFORI Attah over the years that he has been performing. Now, if you tell him that he's tired, who is measuring someone who is tired? Is you from the outside? Yes, a doctor will be able to tell you that, Rebecca, when I look at your face, you are tired. In this case, who is the doctor? The doctor is the president. He is the appointer. And now the president is also, in his last interview, media tour interview, he expressed confidence in the one he has appointed to steer affairs in managing our finances. So go straight and tell us that the minister is not performing. If it's not performing, then the president can ask you, give me the parameters that you are using to assess him. Because the only person who has the power under the constitution to assess a minister is the president. We are there to help, give us suggestions, and it should be concrete enough. So present that suggestion that you have that the minister is not performing to the president. Let him also have a look at it. But on the mere face of the minister is tired, the minister is tired here.
You're not buying into it.
To me, it will be difficult, because who is measuring that tiredness? Because the minister himself in US, in Ghana, has said on several occasions that he's on top of his job. He doesn't sound tired. So if you are telling me he's tired, on what basis are you telling me that he's tired?
So that needs to be measured. Martin, you see, before Akwesi joined in, you made a submission of what goes into the NPP or the majority wanting its own out.
Yeah.
And that will be a subject of discussion for another time. But I think we should discuss it now. with what he is saying.
Yeah.
Do you think there is more to what the majority is presenting to us on the surface of it?
Clearly, look, every Ghanaian is feeling the economic pinch. Every Ghanaian. And even foreigners in the country are beginning to feel the same, that there's something wrong with a very powerful democracy that has, in the last few years, I mean, our numbers on the global scene have been very good until, let's say, from 2019 up until now. Within that space, a lot has gone wrong. And if you do a quick scan of the people in authority, the buck stops with the finance minister. The economy is heavily challenged, and those who are managing the economy, from the president right through to the finance minister, are those that need to steer us out of it. If constituents of MPs tell them that the current route we are on is not helping us and that we want you to take the finance minister out, or suggest to the president to take him out, you are there representing the people. And there's a popular quotation that the voice of the people is the voice of God. So if majority are saying so, then it lies within the power of the president to do the needful, which is that take OFORI Attah out. The concern for others is that why did the NPP say they have the men, they have the people capable of managing the economy, and they have accepted, the president himself, the vice, the finance minister, have all accepted that we are in a very tight financial spot at the moment, but are refusing to take a decision about the man who is managing the country's affairs. It becomes a difficulty not just for the president but for the entire country. A quick example, in the UK, and I'm sure many of you are viewers that is, know what happened in the UK. When Liz Truss took office, Kwesi Kwarteng, who was the head of the Exchequer, or more or less like their finance minister, brought out some proposals that shook the market wrongly. In less than a week or 2 weeks, he was asked out. In fact, he was at the IMF World Bank meeting in the US where OFORI Attah himself was. And the day he arrived, he was actually called back to the UK. The day he arrived was the day he was given a sack letter. And that same day, the pound started gathering some strength against the US dollar. The day Liz Truss herself resigned, the pound gained even more strength. So the market is very reactive. They actually watch what you do and what you say, and that is what gives them the confidence. There is a high possibility, and many economists have shared it, that if the president is bold enough to say that, OFORI Attah, thank you very much for your service, but I think this is where the road ends for you in my government, there is a very high possibility that our currency will start, the market will react.
How
and
so?
It is very
How
likely
so?
to be a positive reaction.
How so?
They look at those in power or those who are taking the decisions. If some of the accusations, be it true or not, leveled against OFORI Attah, for instance, are true. For instance, you are mismanaging the country's coffers. You have doled out money without recourse to what the law says you should do. These things are indicators that he's taking unilateral decisions, which must, in the first place, get parliamentary approval. So you are in a position, very sensitive position. Your decisions are not in favor of the country. Your decisions has ballooned our national debt in excess of over 900 billion. And that is a concern for many, that he is not understanding what's going on, or he's not doing what we expect him to do. So honestly, the onus is on the president to say that thank you. When he leaves, or when a decision like that is taken, I can guarantee, from what the economists and the bookmakers have said, it is going to have a positive impact on our economy. And the MPPs, the majority, they are now they are in a tight fix because they can't go back to their constituents who have asked them that, go and enact laws for us. However, one of your own is not doing the right thing, we want him out. They are in a very tight position. The president says, hold on. Their constituents say, take the decision now. And they're in a very confused state at the moment, the majority.
Let me ask you a direct question. If you were the president, how would you have acted upon this, knowing specifically that the man you have kept in power, or you have kept to see to the purse of the economy, is leading a particular cause that has not come to an end? How would you have dealt with it?
Well, I am not the president. I am not the president, right? But I think that that decision lies, in the power of the president, and it comes back to the issue that Akwesi mentioned, that if you look at the indicators and they are not favoring us, then you need to be bold enough to take the decision. the president is in a fix in that OFORI Attah is not just a member of the NPP. This is a family relation, in fact, a very close family relation. So the considerations are many. Before the president decides to say anything about that sensitive position of the finance ministry and the person involved, Ken OFORI Attah, he has to do a lot of introspection and thinking. Now, then there is a concern. Who would be fitting for that position, especially in the times we are in? Who would want to take up such a very challenging moment and be the finance minister to help steer us out of the current situation we are in? That it would be another challenge for the president to look through his several people who are available to him to appoint one of them. The president can and may, as to when or if he actually will, is something that is entirely up to him.
I know I can't wait to have a bite. What's on your mind? Share with us.
Rebecca, I think this shouldn't be a big deal for the president, to be honest, if the president actually is listening to the people. I've heard the concern of the president that Mr. Ken OFORI Attah is leading us to get a deal from the IMF. Taking him out at this particular moment will be a big blow to the nation. Now that brings us back to this issue of consensus building. Who and who are on the table? Are we being told that apart from Mr. Ken OFORI Attah, no one else can lead us or be able to continue to get us what we want to get from the IMF? Is there any information that Mr. Ken OFORI Attah is shielding from other colleague members he is with on the IMF table? Because if indeed our discussion on this table, like three of us, we discuss, we go for a meeting, and all our plans are open to us all. Either you, me, or Martin, any of us can even take the challenge if two of us are not around. But if the thing seems to revolve around one person to make it look as if that if the person is not there, we'll be losing something big, then it tells us that there's a challenge with the kind of cooperation we are having on the IMF table, led by Mr. Ken OFORI Attah. So I believe that we should get back to the drawing board, get those who are involved with Mr. Ken OFORI Attah, let them also appreciate the level we are with the IMF, so that they can stand in when Mr. Ken OFORI Attah is not around. Because we can't be managing our country or our resources around only one person, or in the name because that he is leading us. Yes, the leader should have a certain information that can also be shared with other team members, but it should be also be open. Rebecca, like Martin said, we're in a fixed situation. In fact, we're in a dire situation, a situation whereby it's becoming difficult day in, day out for us Ghanaians. The president can act based on cogent suggestions from the public, without making conjecture. The businessmen in this country, I would say majority of them, are not in good terms with Mr. Ken OFORI Attah.
How did you know this? You have information we don't?
Yes. No, but yeah, maybe I have some information that, because I have friends who are in the business cycle, and most of them that I engage with are not happy with how Mr. Ken OFORI Attah is managing the finances of this country. Some of the MPs that I also chanced upon at Alisa Hotel, I think was it Thursday or so, when they had a caucus meeting, a national executive meeting. The NPP National Executive met with the caucus of majority caucus to discuss this Ken OFORI Attah issue, the way forward, the ultimatum they have given that if it's Ken OFORI Attah, they will boycott the budget reading. I heard some of the MPs telling me, and I can't mention their name because they're not giving me the right now. They are also fighting Mr. Ken OFORI Attah because they believe that he's being selfish. That's why I started by saying that if our MPs are kicking against Mr. Ken OFORI Attah, especially the majority MPs, they should be open to the president. But we can't continue to hide under the cloak of our constituent, the market. What is the market saying? What are your constituents saying? Is the man performing? Is he not performing? Yes, someone would have been able to perform for his first year. By his second term, maybe we don't know what he has been reading. He's not performing. Just be blunt about it, Mr. President. Our finance minister is not performing up to task.
Perhaps what
we need to
Martin
get
said
him out.
about the president having to go through a lot to take this decision is the same way the MPs are feeling. What if I stick my neck out? What will be my fate and all of that? But I wouldn't want to go there. Let's take a look at what the legal, political, and the economic implications will be for our country. But before then, I have a few messages. Be thinking through that. Let me get some messages in here. So this one says, hello Rebecca, you and your team, good job and splendid topic, and we are watching you live. My name is Richard Kojonya. Oh, Richard. Richard Kojonya. Thank you for watching the program live. It's been long, and the roundtable will get in touch with you. Thank you so much. Good morning, GTV Roundtable. I want to make a contribution. My name is Amma from Soutum. This whole finance minister business would have to come to an end soon, because with the economic challenges that we are in, we can't be going back and forth as if the minority wants him out, as if the majority wants him out. What at all is happening? They should just bring an end to this matter. Let's move on, because people are suffering. Okay, Amma. Good day, Roundtable. My name is Kweku Edu from Edukrom. Kweku Edu from Edukrom. Does Ghana's constitution permit this for a censure to be against the current finance minister? If it is so, can it be challenged? I want to find out from your panel. Okay, let me take this through for a while. So many messages keep coming in, and I would have to coordinate it effectively. But Martin, let's look at either of you, whoever wants to take it. Let's look at the economic implication, the legal implication, the political implication for our country if this should go through.
Right, maybe we'll start with
we will have an artificial stability of our city if OFORI Attah is out of office today.
What do you mean by an artificial stability of our city?
I think it's similar to the point I made earlier, that you see, the market is watching and waiting. To be honest, it's not that all the dollars in the system have evaporated. No. People have it. They are just holding back to it to watch how the government will take a decision. There are a few who've taken it out. There are those who have businesses who've moved their businesses out. What makes this worse, or the impression you get about our economy is actually heartbreaking, especially if the President of the Republic himself says that we are in a crisis. That shouldn't be taken for granted. The President, who is in charge of all our resources, including human resource, says that we are in a crisis. It tells you that he's seeing something that majority may not have averted their minds to. So if as president you know that we are in a crisis, now we are getting to, we actually are in that already, what measures is he taking? There are those, when we put out stories and we aired his Sunday address, people said they didn't really catch the positive vibe they were expecting. The feedback we got was like, he didn't say much. They don't see what he's going to do that will change where we currently are, and they didn't feel any sense of hope from the president.
But Martin, sorry, but I think for that one, it might be because we are all in anticipation to hear the president saying that, yes, Mr. OFORI Attah is out of office. You know that when you are glued to a certain portion of a statement and you don't get that, from head to toe actually doesn't make any sense to you. I think that is what maybe we Ghanaians will, because the call for Mr. OFORI Attah to resign didn't start today. It only picked up when, for the first time, government party in parliament rise up against a colleague minister that yes, it's time for the minister to leave office for another person to take us to the promised land. But Martin, I think going forward too, we need to also look at the fundamentals of our economy. I was reading through the first half macroeconomic data from Bank of Ghana. That stated that from January to June, we have our export amounted to $9 billion US. Then I asked myself, if we have this $9 billion in the economy, were we going to buy dollar at 15 Ghana cedis? Then I went back to GRA. Then I found out that most of the exports were done by expatriates. The challenge ahead of us, I always say that it's not necessarily about Mr. OFORI Attah. COVID and Russia has rather come to give us the full scope of our economy that we thought was strong. But in actual fact, we are not. And my heart bleeds to the extent that if we don't take care, and something extra bigger than COVID and Russia-Ukraine comes to hit the world again, Ghana might be at a point that we might not take it easy as we have been taking it now. Why do we live in an economy whereby we do export of $9 billion, import of $7.5 billion? This according to Bank of Ghana. Then this $9 billion is nowhere to be found. The only money we found in this country was the Kokopo syndicated loan. How well are we helping our businessmen to be men enough? We are living in a country whereby NPP will come to power and build Rebecca. NDC will come to power and collapse Rebecca's business and build Akwasinsia. Then it changes again. NPP comes to power and build Martin. NDC comes to power, collapse Martin business and build Rebecca. Where are our business people? Where are they? What kind of businessmen are we building in this country to make sure that when it gets to crisis like this, we can fall on them? We can make mention of Dangote in Nigeria. Dangote took care of the Super Eagles through to the state that Ghana got them out of the World Cup qualification, because the country has helped him to develop and build him to the standard. Dangote is building a refinery bigger, larger than anything in Africa. Where are our businessmen? Even our refinery, Tama Oil Refinery, we can't get Ghanaian business partners to say that we are going to partner government. Where is the money? They don't have it. We are not building businessmen. We are not building billionaires. There's something actually wrong with our fundamentals. If we don't do away with this MPP and this system, we continue to be in this and thinking that one man is not doing well. We will have several ministers of finance. The challenges we are talking about today, we are talking about the deepest of it, but it has been the same. Tell me what has changed from Kwame Nkrumah to now. Nothing has changed. But only that this time we are talking about the deepest of our challenge. The surface looks the same. How are we dealing with it? Ghana needs to move beyond this partisan issue of I don't like Martin, so by hook or crook I need to get Martin out. I don't like Rebecca, so any means, any foul, I need to get Rebecca out. We need to build our fundamentals. And I believe that if Mr. President Nana Akufo-Addo, why a lot of people had confidence in him, was not one to build infrastructure. People believe Nana Akufo-Addo to put our economy, to put our fundamentals
in a sound footing.
So that anyone who comes after him will have it easy to build upon it. Because we believe Nana Akufo-Addo, over the years being in our political scene, has learned enough. And now showed in the 2016 elections. The confidence Ghanaians have in our president at that time was much more higher to the extent that we were not expecting him to be building schools or the things. We were expecting the president to put things in place, put measures in place to ensure that we are fighting corruption, we are making the laws work, so that anyone who comes into the country, whether party A, party B, will feel that the fundamentals have already been built. We are getting to the point that Ghanaians have started to realize that democracy don't bring development. This is where we are getting to. Democracy don't bring development. So President Nana Akufo-Addo, the onus actually lies on him to prove people right that indeed the confidence that you reposed in me in 2016 by giving me that huge margin victory over my opponent, and put it to right.
I think you've said what he has said very cogent, and it ties in with what some key voices within the space have been trumpeting. One is that the current economic challenges present us as an opportunity to reassess ourselves as a country and take the right decisions. Before the president spoke, former President Mahama had also addressed the nation and mentioned a number of very important things that we have always said, but very little to no action has been taken regarding that. One would be, for instance, we need to promote local content. And by promoting local content, we're talking about, for instance, government helping small-scale businesses or reinvesting a lot in businesses that are state-owned, that are Ghanaian-led, so that, like you mentioned, the Dangote experience or example, when they thrive, naturally, their foreign exchange is retained in the country. If majority of your forex is taken out of your shores, it leaves your cedi, very weak and in a position that it cannot compete, not even within the African economic space. So we need to start empowering and be committed to that empowerment. Our taste for foreign goods, even as citizens, must also be changed. We have to start patronizing our local content because, you see, unfortunately, we have acquired certain tastes that we are too import-driven as a country. That in itself is a challenge. And if we can fix that, by fixing that, a lot of economists have propounded theories of how you can reduce or reverse the trend of importing almost everything and then increasing our exports. And Nigeria is a typical example of a staple like rice. Look, the Nigerian rice, I'm sure many people know about it. It's big. It's not necessarily tasty if you compare to the perfume, the jasmine, etc. But they have made it a law. And as stubborn as Nigerians may be, they have all accepted that law. The taxes you pay on imported rice, you would think twice and then try the local one. To the extent that even Nigerians living outside the shores of Nigeria still consume the Nigerian rice. They import it into other countries and use it because they want, by doing so, they are empowering and giving their resources back to the country to help their locals grow. So maybe as a country, we need to be unified in that decision that, for instance, staples like maize, we have huge arable lands. If a government can decide to say that for the next year, I'm going to be truly committed, not the rhetoric or the political policies that sometimes we know collectively and it may not inure to the benefit of the many. Not that type. The Planting for Food and Jobs example, many people applauded the government for even having that kind of idea and were willing to support the government. But as we stand now, we do not know whether it's been successful or not. Because if truly Planting for Food and Jobs has been extremely successful as government is touting or as the Agri Minister is touting, we should have food littered, especially from the food growing areas. The food problem shouldn't be from the farm gates. In those areas, they should have it in abundance. Then maybe the challenge will be transporting them to the markets like Accra. But if even those areas they are complaining, it tells you that along the value chain there has been some problem somewhere. You see, so the commitment, the political will of saying that, yes, Akwesi said that we are talking about the finance minister now, but he's not the only problem. The problem has built up over a period of time. He has just, unfortunately, been the one who is currently in the position and has also himself taken some decisions that has not inured to his own benefit or the advantage of the country. So if he's been asked out, I think it's a fair call. However, we need to look beyond his sacking or resignation and fix the current challenges we are in. We know what the problems are. The president is aware. The ex-president is aware. Everybody who's led this country one way or the other, from whichever position, be it in parliament or as an appointee, they know what the problem is. We need to come together and draft specific routes or steps we need to take to fix it. And I say that if we give ourselves 5 years maximum, we can truly be the rising, shining black star that a lot of other Africans see us to be. When you go elsewhere, the way the excitement with which they talk about Ghana is, but then you come into the country and be like, we actually can do more. The potential is there. The will, the political will, is what is lacking. And it's about time we reconsider a number of these decisions.
Right. So soon we'll be changing over to our next topic, but let me pick a few messages from our viewers. I want to know the very justifiable reason why the finance minister should continue to be in office given the current state of the economy. I personally feel he should resign and not be sacked. I also want to know the rationale behind law school's intention to monitor students' social media handles. We'll be tackling that topic soon, so you get a feedback from all of these issues. Oh, let me see who sent us that message. Joel from Enchi. Joel, thank you so much. Thank you for that one. All of these issues, there should be honesty and integrity. The politicians don't think about the welfare of any Ghanaian. So we can discuss these issues on ending because they are thinking of their own pockets. Unfortunately, you didn't add your name. Kindly add your name when you send in the WhatsApp or your SMS. Hi. Thank you for linking up this time around. We are happy about the discussion, but just as your guests have said, the fundamental issues needs to be tackled. The whole issue is not just about Ken OFORI Attah. Ghana has failed in building a strong economic foundation, and that is now showing up when these crises emerged. We need to work hard. My name is Barbara from Wager. Barbara. Okay. Thank you. Samuel Odoi from Santa Maria says the finance minister was appointed by the president and he has sole right to remove him. The MPs can advise the president but not to force him. Forcing him is disrespect. I hope the finance minister can be successful. God bless him. That is coming from Samuel Ode, and he adds that law school want to exceed their mandate. They should rather check their criminal record by checking their fingerprints at CID. Law school should remove some of the retrogressive barriers to produce more lawyers to help Mother Ghana and not be monitoring social media. Mr. Odoi, Samuel Odoi from Santa Maria. Okay. Right. So I'm trying to get some of the messages, but let's look at this situation about the law school. But let me read quickly this message from Daniel from Shalibuchi. Vote of censure against Ghana's finance minister is a shame to all Ghanaians. First in our history. We should not even tout it. At least let's allow him for a matter of at least 2 months to come out with his recovery program. If he is unable to, then he should come out boldly and say, I have resigned. Censure is a big embarrassment. We should not flag it. Personally, I have problems with these social media issues. I will talk about it later, but for now, I think it is in the right direction. That is what Daniel from Ashalibuchi also thinks. Mr. Odoi thinks otherwise, but someone says, okay, I'm also for it. Martin Agwezinsia, let's look at this law school thing. The test with which they are putting across for students to pass or make it to the bar. Is it backed by any law? Or would we call it, would I say, an infringement upon the rights of these students?
Maybe I could still take the first.
I think it's backed by the regulations of General Legal Council. Okay. And I have here section 3 that talks about the qualifications for enrollment.
Yeah.
1. A person shall be qualified for enrollment if he satisfies the General Legal Council. A. That he is of good character, and B. that he holds a qualifying certificate granted under Part 2 of this Act by the General Legal Council. 2. A person may, at the discretion of the General Legal Council, be enrolled if he satisfies the General Legal Council. A. That he is of good character. I mean, we are taking care of taking note of the good character. Yeah. B, that he is qualified to practice in any country having a sufficiency analogs system of law, and that his qualifications are such as to render him suitable for environment and fulfills such conditions, whether as to status or proficiency, as may be prescribed. 3, a person who is a citizen of Ghana shall be qualified for enrollment if he satisfies the General Legal Council A, that he is of good character. So from section 3:1 to 3 talks about good character. Only that they are not explicit as to what qualifies to be a good character. I believe that anybody who wants to get into this profession also needs to understand that every profession has its own status and has its own tenet of operations. If we decide to operate within every profession equally, you might not be able to appreciate what each profession is entailed. Law school in itself is not a joke. In fact, Martin, I gave a little attempt and I think I had to pause a while to reassess myself, because it needs a whole time of yourself. I know we are making this discussion because of what has happened to a governor or government. It's unfortunate that for you to go through the mill to the last end of it, for you to be faced with this. But I also believe that it's also time for us to take responsibility of certain actions that we put across. I always tell my firstborn, program it in your mind that you want to be great. Great person do not lead anyhow life. You need to know the step that you are taking as you move along. Because if you don't have that instinct into yourself, certain actions or inactions of yours might block an advantage somewhere. Whoever thought that a day will come that American embassy will now say that when you apply for a visa, give us your social media handles. Because they also don't want just anybody to enter their country because of a implication of 9/11. So as the world moves around, as the world evolves, certain measures will come along the way that we need to understand that every action, every step you are taking today, we will be able to answer for it when we are called tomorrow on that same issue. That's the General Legal Council position. It's within their remit. It's within their constitutional mandate. Like as I've read from their section 3, it tells about good character. So anything that they deem to be unfit with them as good character, they can use it against you. But I also believe that if something can also be done about it, because yes, like the Bible said, in the tree say, but you can also be judging me with my old stock, because if you tend to go along that way, a lot of people that out of the 840 who were called to the bar yesterday, and let me also take opportunity to also congratulate our women. I think they form about 51.9%. That's about 460. That tells us as a country, that girl child education program that we put forth ahead, at least we're making headway with it. But as we are also making encouragement for the girls to be in school, now it tells us that our boys are also lacking behind. So we need to find a way to also bring them along. Yes, we also believe that I think General Legal Council also find a way in between their act and sections.
You see, with the embassy's example that you gave, at least for that one, they make you present it before they decide on whether you can enter my country or not. But this is when somebody has already passed the test, written an exam, which is not easy, learning 9 varied subjects with case of law that you have to learn. You don't know where it's coming from. The person has gone through the mill, gone through interview, gone through the law school with all the things that you have to endure just to get my final paper and this comes
I'm blocked with this.
And you come up with the issue of good character.
See, Akwesi has actually set a very good precedent, a good foundation for this conversation, and it is very heartwarming that you have majority of those who were called to the bar yesterday being women.
Yeah.
That's very commendable. And it tells you that the girl child education and the campaign that we've been having for the last few years is materializing. And like you mentioned, we need to just ensure that we're able to encourage more young men as well to get into various professions, not necessarily just the legal profession. And it is a profession. It is a legal profession. Or in itself, it tells you that first you choose to be a part of it. You are not forced into it. You choose to be a part of it. And like every other profession, there are rules and regulations governing them. So in this context, if the rules and regulations of being called to the bar are explicit, they are actually straightforward, and they say that you need to tick these boxes, you can't skip them and want to be called to the bar. That one, I mean, it definitely will be a travesty. In the same vein, I think as of the time these laws were being put together, because this is the General Legal, it's called the Legal Profession Act 1960. 1960. It was assented to in 1961. Around that time, social media wasn't even in existence. So maybe the legal counsel can start reviewing or reconsidering some of the entrenched positions stated in the act. However, it does not do away with the fact that you need to still conform and abide by what is clearly stated. The bone of contention when it comes to this issue will be who defines what is good character. You know, because they have just stated in the act that must be of good character. But what does that mean? You know, sitting pretty quiet, does that mean you're of good character? Or being the loud mouth out there all the time, does that make you a good character? Why in one breath we encourage people to be outspoken and to be, we are a country that is propagating the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, feel free and say whatever the law, you can't be gagged, allow people to be themselves. We promote that. In fact, that is one of the reasons why Ghana is seen as a shining democratic example. So if we are pushing that, and in the same vein or within that, we are still more or less restricting people from expressing themselves, then maybe we need to clearly define what good character is. Maybe the onus now lies on the General Legal Counsel to come and say that if you expose yourself on social media, that is not good character. If you speak against maybe the General Legal Counsel or the government or whoever, that is not good character. They should try and define what good character is. Then we can match it up with the people who have been dropped because they did not live up to that expectation. And I'm sure naturally they themselves will get to know that, well, I think I have missed a number of these requirements, so I do not qualify. When you look at the Amma governor, you know, and I don't think that she's probably the only one who has been dropped as a result of not being of good character. Her case in point, she had actually undertaken whatever it is she was doing. Her social media activities have been out there for a number of months, if not years, before she even entered the law school, and has gone through the requirements of being in the law school, written the exam, passed. Now someone reports and says she has done this and that, so we think that she's not qualified to be called to the bar. And the legal counsel, in retrospect, say that she has not achieved or not ticked those necessary required boxes, so we are dropping her. It brings an issue up where you say you are judging someone based on their past. However, if, for instance, this law was in place and clearly so defined before she flouted them, I'm not sure it would even be an issue for discussion. But if you say that, and I'm sure that almost every law student, before you get to the point of the examination and the interview, would have read the Legal Professions Act. And there, Section 3 clearly, and it's about 3 or 4 times, it's stated that must be of good character. You see, so for someone like Amma Governor, maybe she must have, and that is what maybe some would have advised her to do. You have read this, or expected to have read the the Legal Professions Act. if they say good character, what does that mean? And do you think that you are living the expected character that they would say is of good character, for which they'll pass you? If she read it and still did what she was doing and now she's been dropped, then I think there again there is no issue of for conversation at all. You see, so we are, for that specific bit, we are torn between whether what she did in her past should be used to judge her going into the future. Now the bit about asking all of them to bring their or submit their social media handle, it's not necessarily out of place, but if you listen to what the likes of Roxy Nelson, the MP for South Dai, is saying, and some other individuals are saying about it is gagging freedom of expression and freedom of free speech, that it's very debatable. You can still, they are not saying don't tweet or don't post on social media. They are saying that bring it, we'll monitor you. Now the monitoring then again will throw up what exactly is it that they are going to be monitoring.
Anyway, let me, my time is almost up, so let me pick a few messages from my viewers. Everybody is talking about the finance minister, while in actual sense he is not the only person to be blamed for the current economic challenges that we find ourselves in. If Ken is to go, the governor of Bank of Ghana must also go. I'm Bismarck from Bawe. Top base. Hi, if Papua New Guinea has reviewed the percentage they get from oil revenue from 65% to 75% from Tullow Oil Company, the same company drilling Ghana oil, I learned Ghana has 17%. I think we need to go to the IMF with all our natural resources, including oil at Ituabo. From Samuel Sawyer. Samuel. Hello, Rebecca. This is Arafat, a student in UEW North Campus and a constituent of Bolga Central. You and your team are doing a marvelous job. I want to believe that the incumbent government, together with the finance minister, have a malfeasance, which is why they are refusing to take him out. The Ghanaian economy is actually at the verge of collapsing. The majority have to consider the plea of the ordinary Ghanaian and take the minister of finance out. This is actually a time to show their loyalty, whether to their constituents or to their political color. Hello, thank you for this program. My name is Alex from Tema Community 5. The finance minister has lost ideas. He has to go out. My name is Atta Jr. watching you live from Odoko. Good work done. And I suggest we leave the finance minister to continue with his duties. No need to take him out. Earlier, the finance minister resigns, the better for him and the MPP. If not, the embarrassment will be too much. Unfortunately, my time is up, but I thank you so much for all the messages that you have sent, and we will do well to respond to each and every message that you sent onto this platform. We have been looking at the vote of censure against Ghana's finance minister, and also we have been looking at the law school wanting students to hand over their social media accounts for monitoring in order for them to assess whether they are of good character to be able to make up for the bar. And I have been doing this in studio with Martin Esiedu Date, an award-winning broadcast journalist with TV3 Network, owners of Media General, and with him has been another award-winning Ghanaian journalist and editor with Adom TV, Akwesi Nsia, also of the Multimedia Group. My name is Rebecca Ewa. If you say a prayer, remember to say one for us too. Thank you, Ghana. We'll see you again, God willing, next week.